Question number 2, Brett Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. How much is the government committing to spend on infrastructure over the next 4 years?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, last week I announced the government will allocate $11 billion in new capital spending over the next 4 budgets, including $4 billion over the period 2017-18. This government is investing heavily in new schools, hospitals, housing, roads and railways, as well as additional new defence into the justice and defence sectors. New Zealand is experiencing strong economic growth, but to keep growing we have to continue investing in the infrastructure the country needs. We're able to do this because we have a strong economic plan that is delivering economic growth, ensuring the government's finances continue to grow, and of course we've returned to surplus.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Brett Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, how does this amount compare to capital expenditure over previous years?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, the capital commitment in Budget 2017 that I've talked about will represent the biggest addition to the government's capital stock in decades. In Budget 2016, for example, last year we were forecasting around $3.6 billion in new capital spend between Budget 17 and Budget 20, compared to the $11 billion that was announced last week. And in fact, if you add the government's budgeted new capital investment together with the investment already being made through baselines and through the National Land Transport Fund, the total is around $23 billion over the next 4 financial years, or an average of nearly $6 billion per year.
Supplementary question, Brett Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, how will New Zealanders benefit from this additional investment in infrastructure?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, Kiwi families will see the benefits in terms of the facilities and services they receive for their kids to go to school, treatment in local hospitals and of course the transport to get to work each day. In some parts of Auckland, Mr Speaker, already you can see a massive amount of activity occurring, and I understand the frustration that comes from an epidemic of road cones, but that's a strong sign of how we're building for further growth. Change is already happening with the recent opening of the Kapiti Expressway here in Wellington, the imminent opening of the $1.6 billion Waterview connection, the widening of the Southern Corridor in Auckland, the airport motorway developments, and of course the widening of the Mount Roskill motorway and the Norwestern motorway widenings, as well as the construction of the CRL tunnel. These investments will go towards providing the core infrastructure needed to build homes for our growing population. Winston.
Supplementary question, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
If the public is to believe anything that this minister says, can he confirm that after 8 years, not 1 metre of the Puhoi to Warkworth superhighway has been built? That since he made the promise of the Northern by-election, not 1 metre of the Wellsford to Warkworth highway has been built? And that of his 10 two-lane bridges, nothing has started and 7 have gone missing.
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, if the member is criticising my word against his, I'll remind him that it's him that's got the record of 40 years in New Zealand's politics with not a massive amount of consistency. But
Point of order.
Order.
Point of order, Speaker.
A point of order has been raised. I'll hear it.
In the interest of being terse and accurate, I kept it very simple. I just wanted confirmation, yes or no.
Order. No. The member knows Speaker's rulings better than that. He can't demand an yes or no answer. Does the Minister want to complete his answer?
Well, as I was saying, Mr Speaker, the member's record of consistency over 40 years leaves something to be desired, but I'm happy to help him. Because, Mr Speaker, this government is investing in the highway in Puhoi to Warkworth and, in fact, has a great plan for Warkworth to Wellsford. It is investing for the member's benefit currently in 4 of the 10 bridges in Northland. It is investing, Mr Speaker, in the state highway linking between Whangarei and the airport. It is investing, Mr Speaker, in a whole bunch of other roads in Northland. And if the member would like to go on a field trip to his Northland electorate, I suggest we get Mr Bridges to take him for a look around.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Brett Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, what funding tools are the government considering to encourage additional investment in New Zealand's infrastructure?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, one of the key things the government infrastructure spending can achieve is bringing together central government, local government and the private sector to enhance infrastructure spending more generally. Not all infrastructure needs to be paid for by taxpayers. To encourage this coming together, we are intending to further extend the use of public-private partnerships. We, of course, have the Housing Infrastructure Fund, which will help encourage joint ventures between central and local government. And also we intend to bring in more private investors. We'll have more to say about that in the months ahead.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Marama Fox.
How will the Minister respond to Ala Te Kani, Tina Karaitiana and Nikki Sarank of Ngāti Porou, who run their whānau trust growing forests, who tell me they cannot get the logs out because the public road needed to do so is impassable, there is no plan to fix it, and creating a net loss to them of $3 million?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, the Minister of Transport tells me that there is work planned in that particular area of Ngāti Porou's territory, so I'm going to suggest to the member that she takes that up with the Minister of Transport, who is probably keen to visit Ngāti Porou territory as well.
Question number 3,